And now to a large recall from General Motors. It involves 600,000 vehicles whose V8 engines can fail without warning.
Let me ask you something right at the start, and I genuinely want you to think about this. If you walked into a dealership tomorrow, handed over $100,000 for a brand new truck or SUV, and then 3 weeks later found yourself coasting to the shoulder of a highway with a dead engine and no warning whatsoever, how would you feel? Not frustrated. Not disappointed. Betrayed. Completely, absolutely betrayed. That is the exact experience tens of thousands of GM owners are living through right now. And what's wild is that the people selling these vehicles know what's going on. The people manufacturing these engines know what's going on. Federal investigators know what's going on. And yet, the trucks are still sitting on dealership lots. The sticker prices haven't dropped. And buyers are still walking in without the full story. So today, we're going to change that. We're going to go through everything, the scale of the problem, what went wrong, why the recall may have actually failed. What GM did quietly at the dealership level that speaks louder than any press release, and where things stand heading into 2027. If you've ever bought a GM vehicle, if you're shopping for one right now, or if you just care about what's happening in the American automotive industry, stick around. This one matters. Part 1, the scale of the problem. Let's establish what we're actually dealing with here, because the numbers alone are staggering. The engine at the center of all of this is the 6.2-liter L87 V8. This was supposed to be General Motors' most powerful, most refined gas engine for their full-size consumer lineup. The Chevy Silverado, the GMC Sierra, the Tahoe, the Suburban, the Yukon, all running this engine. All marketed as the premium choice. All positioned as the best of what GM had to offer. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration launched a formal investigation into this engine in early 2025. What came out of that investigation flagged roughly 877,000 vehicles. Nearly 900,000 vehicles tied to one engine and one recurring failure pattern. I want you to pause on that number for a second. 877,000. That's not a quality control blip. That's not a bad production batch. That's a systemic failure at a scale that should have triggered emergency action the moment early data started rolling in. And here's the part that really demands accountability: GM received more than 28,000 individual engine failure reports before a formal recall was announced. 28,000 separate incidents. 28,000 people who reached out, filed complaints, documented what happened to them. And the response was a recall covering just over 600,000 vehicles. Have any of you personally experienced something like this with a vehicle, not necessarily a GM truck? Just any car where you felt like the manufacturer already knew about a problem but didn't act? Drop that in the comments. I read everything, and your stories genuinely shape what we cover here. Now, when we say engine failure, let's be precise about what's actually happening, because this is not a minor issue. These aren't oil leaks. These aren't check engine lights that come on and then go away. The engine block itself. We're talking about complete engine seizure at highway speeds. Zero warning. No gradual power loss. No opportunity to safely pull over. Just nothing. Families in full-size SUVs on interstates. Trucks towing trailers on two-lane roads. People in vehicles they paid six figures for, experiencing the kind of failure you'd expect from a neglected car with 300,000 miles and no maintenance history, not from a brand new vehicle still inside its factory warranty window. Part 2, the recall that may not have fixed anything. When GM did finally move on a recall, the fix they implemented raised serious questions, and those questions have only grown louder in the time since. Here's what actually happened at dealerships. Technicians ran a diagnostic test on the engine. Based on the results, one of two outcomes followed. Either the engine was fully replaced, or the oil specification was changed. Specifically, the service bulletin moved vehicles from a 0W20 grade oil to a 0W40. Now if you know engines, you understand that's a meaningful viscosity jump at operating temperature. Heavier oil does provide more film strength between moving components when the engine is hot. And there is a genuine argument that the L87 may have been underfilled with protective lubrication margin from the factory. But here's the problem with that logic. Changing the oil weight addresses a symptom. It does not address an engineering flaw. And most industry observers who reviewed the situation noted that even a shift to something like a 5W30, which balances cold start protection with better warm running viscosity, would have been a more thoughtful approach. But even that would have been a workaround, not a solution. Because the root problem here was never purely about oil grade. It was about design tolerances, manufacturing precision, and quality control at the production level. Oil is the last line of defense inside an engine. When that's the only thing standing between you and catastrophic failure, something further upstream went wrong. And here's where the story gets even more uncomfortable. Owners who had their engines fully replaced under the recall, not just an oil change, a brand new engine, started coming back to dealerships with the same symptoms. Loss of power. Knocking. And in some cases, the same catastrophic failure all over again. One Yukon Denali Ultimate owner, a vehicle priced well above $90,000, went through the recall process, passed the diagnostic, and then watched their replacement engine die completely within weeks. Another owner filmed their truck losing all forward motion on a busy highway, mid-drive, with no warning at all. They described it as identical to what had happened before the recall was supposed to fix everything. These are not isolated posts from one frustrated person on a forum. This is a pattern. And the NHTSA recognized it as a pattern. Which is why federal investigators opened a secondary inquiry into whether GM's own recall response was adequate. Let that land for a moment. The government is now investigating whether the solution to the problem is also a problem. Part 3, What changed quietly on the dealership lot. This is the part that I find particularly telling. And I want you to think about what this says about GM's internal confidence in their own product. For years, the 6.2-liter badge on the hood of a Silverado or Sierra was a selling point. It was a status marker. It meant you had the most powerful gas engine in the lineup. GM put it right there on the exterior trim, bold and visible, because they were proud of it. Buyers knew it, dealers knew it, and the badge commanded a price premium. Walk onto a Chevy dealership lot today and look at the hoods. You'll see Turbomax badges. You'll see Duramax badges. You'll see Z71 off-road trim badges. You will not find a 6.2 badge anywhere. GM quietly removed it. No announcement. No explanation to consumers. Just, gone. The engine is still being sold in certain vehicles, but GM no longer wants to call attention to it on the exterior. Now ask yourself, why would a company remove the badge for an engine they're proud of? They wouldn't. Companies remove badges when the badge has become a liability. When the name on the hood is more likely to trigger alarm than desire. And it's not just the badge. Try to find a new Silverado or Sierra equipped with the 6.2 L87 sitting in ready inventory on a typical dealership lot right now. It's incredibly difficult. The vehicles that do have this engine are often parked in front of the service bay, not the sales row, waiting on yet another engine replacement. Meanwhile, customers shopping for a half-ton truck with power and refinement are increasingly being steered toward two alternatives, the 5.3-liter V8, or the 2.7-liter four-cylinder Turbomax. A four-cylinder, in a full-size truck lineup that a few years ago was defined by its available V8 options. Here's a question worth sitting with: if you were in the market for a full-size truck or SUV right now, would you still want the 6.2 V8 knowing what you know? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments, I'll read through them. Part 4. Engines GM got right, and what that reveals. Here's the part that makes this whole situation genuinely maddening, because General Motors clearly has the engineering talent to build exceptional engines. The evidence is sitting right in their own lineup. Take the 2.7-liter Turbomax 4-cylinder. This engine powers the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon midsize trucks, and it is legitimately impressive engineering work. It generates over 400 pound-feet of torque, runs higher boost levels than most production 4-cylinders in any segment, and has demonstrated real long-term durability under the kind of stress that mid-size truck owners actually put their vehicles through. Colorado and Canyon owners are not flooding forums with engine horror stories. They're towing. They're off-roading. They're logging high miles. And the engines hold up. That's what a properly engineered, properly validated engine looks like. Then there's the 6.2-liter V8 in the C8 Corvette. Same displacement as the L87 that's been destroying itself in trucks. Same general engine family lineage. Virtually indestructible in practice. Corvette owners are not reporting connecting rod failures. They're not being stranded. The Corvette 6.2 is widely praised as one of the finest naturally aspirated V8s in production anywhere in the world right now. So how does the same company, with the same general architecture, produce an engine that is genuinely world-class in one vehicle and catastrophically unreliable in another? Different standards. Different levels of scrutiny. Different manufacturing tolerances. Different quality control processes at the production level. The Corvette team built that engine like failure was not an option, because for the Corvette it genuinely wasn't. It's a halo vehicle. It carries the brand. Every flaw gets magnified. So they over-engineered it. They stress-tested it. They built in margin. The L87 truck engine, somewhere in that process, those same principles did not apply with the same rigor. Whether that was cost-cutting pressure, production volume targets, supply chain shortcuts, or something else entirely, the result is the same. 877,000 vehicles. 28,000 failure reports. A recall that the federal government is now questioning. And the contrast between what GM can do and what GM apparently chose to do is what makes this so hard to accept. Part 5, What's coming in 2027? So where does GM go from here? Because they cannot continue this cycle indefinitely. Replacing failed engines with the same engines that are failing again is not a strategy, it's a stall. And it won't hold. The most significant development on the horizon is GM's announcement of a new engine generation, first revealed through the 2027 Corvette Grand Sport. That vehicle debuts an all-new 6.7-liter V8 producing 535 horsepower and 520 pound-feet of torque, paired with a new dual-clutch transmission. GM is calling this the foundation of their next-generation small-block V8 family. When this was announced, speculation erupted online that this 6.7-liter engine would make its way directly into the 2027 Silverado and Sierra, which would make intuitive sense. You have a disaster with your current truck engine. You have a proven new engine from your sports car. You swap it in, reset the narrative, move forward. But GM's official communications made something clear: the 2027 Silverado and Sierra will not receive the Corvette 6.7-liter engine. Instead, they'll get a related but distinct 6.6-liter V8, built as part of the new 6th-generation small block family, specifically engineered for truck and SUV applications. The careful language GM used was telling. Their materials said the new architecture would benefit other V8 Chevrolets. Not that it would be directly transplanted. The lessons from the Corvette program will influence the truck engine. But it will be a different engine, built to different specifications, under whatever production conditions exist at that time. And that's the real question that nobody at GM has answered publicly: will the new generation truck engine be built with Corvette-level standards? Or will the same production pressures that created the L87 situation produce similar compromises in the new architecture? A new displacement number in a press release doesn't automatically mean a new level of quality. The proof will be in the execution, and that verdict won't be in until 2027 trucks have accumulated significant real-world miles. What do you think? Do you believe GM has genuinely learned from what happened with the L87, or does the pattern here make you skeptical? Be honest in the comments, I want to hear your actual read on this. Part 6, the human cost of this situation. I want to step away from the mechanical and corporate details for a moment. Because there's a dimension of this story that sometimes gets lost in the technical discussion. The people most affected by the L87 situation are not gearheads who bought performance vehicles for track days. They're families. They're people who saved for years to buy what they considered a reliable, premium vehicle that would serve them for a decade. They trusted the GM name. They paid for that trust in the form of six-figure transaction prices. And what they got in return was an engine that could fail at any moment, with zero warning. In conditions that range from slightly inconvenient to genuinely dangerous. Imagine planning a road trip with your family, kids in the back seat, luggage packed. Driving on a highway 2 states from home, and the engine just stops. No warning light sequence. No gradual loss of power. Just gone. That's not a mechanical inconvenience. That's a traumatic experience. And for many L87 owners, that experience has been followed by weeks or months without their vehicle while service departments back up trying to source replacement engines. Then followed by the anxiety of wondering if the replacement engine will do the same thing. And here's a detail that tends to get overlooked: your loan doesn't pause while your truck sits in a service bay. Your insurance doesn't pause. The financial commitments tied to that vehicle continue regardless of whether the vehicle is operable. GM's warranty covers the repair, but nobody compensates you for 6 weeks of loan payments on a vehicle you cannot drive. This is what a real breakdown of consumer trust looks like. Not a PR crisis. Not a news cycle. A genuine, lasting deterioration of confidence that takes years to rebuild, if it gets rebuilt at all. Part 7. What buyers should actually do right now. Let me be direct here, because if you're actively shopping for a GM truck or full-size SUV, you deserve honest guidance rather than a sales pitch. If you want a full-size GM truck and your priority is a proven, durable gas V8, look at the 6.6-liter engine found in the 2500 and 3500 heavy-duty trucks. This is a different engine entirely from the L87. It has a separate engineering history and has not shown the same catastrophic failure patterns. For buyers who need serious towing capacity and want a gas V8 they can trust, this is the more defensible choice right now. If you're open to a half-ton truck with something other than a V8, the 2.7-liter Turbomax genuinely deserves consideration on its merits, not as a consolation prize. It produces more torque than the 5.3-liter V8, gets significantly better fuel economy, and the engineering quality behind it is well documented. The stigma around 4 cylinders in full-size trucks is fading for exactly this reason. If you're looking at the 5.3-liter V8, do your research on the Active Fuel Management System, often called AFM or Dynamic Fuel Management in GM's marketing. This cylinder deactivation technology has its own documented history of lifter failures. Many owners have addressed this through aftermarket solutions that delete the AFM system. It's a manageable situation, but you should go in informed. And if someone is actively trying to sell you a new 6.2-liter L87 in a half-ton truck or full-size SUV right now, slow down. Ask specific questions about the recall status of that vehicle. Get documentation. Understand your state's lemon law provisions and at what point they apply. Make sure any warranty commitments are in writing and specific, not general. You work hard for your money. You deserve to spend it on something that's actually going to perform the way it was marketed to perform. Closing. Here's where we land. General Motors has the engineering talent to build world-class powertrains. The Turbomax proves it. The Corvette's engine proves it. These aren't accidents of luck, they're the result of proper engineering discipline applied with genuine commitment to getting it right. The L87 V8 situation represents what happens when those same standards don't get applied with the same rigor. The scale of the problem, nearly 900,000 flagged vehicles, 28,000 documented failures. A recall now under federal scrutiny, is not the result of bad luck. It's the result of choices made at the production and quality control level. Choices that prioritized volume and cost over the precision that these engines required. The 2027 generation engine represents an opportunity for GM to reset. But the question of whether that reset will be real or cosmetic is one that only time and miles will answer. In the meantime, buyers deserve the full picture. And that's exactly what we're here to give you. If you've owned one of the affected vehicles, if you went through the recall process and want to share what that experience was actually like. Or if you have thoughts on where GM goes from here, the comments are open and I'm reading them. Your perspective matters here, and it contributes to a conversation that helps other people make better decisions. If this was useful, share it with someone who's shopping for a truck right now. They'll thank you for it later. We'll see you in the next one.